Welcome back, and we're going to be talking about use of text and fonts. And first we're going to be starting with fonts. There are two classifications for fonts that you should know. The serif, which are these fonts that have these slight projections finishing off a stroke of a letter, and these are most often used for smaller character sizes when you have multiple lines of text. And that's the case of magazines and newspapers, and also the case of books. And in the case of scientists, you will most definitely be using serif fonts for your articles and for the text blocks of your poster. Now the other classification are the sans serif fonts. And these are the fonts that don't have those projections. And sans serif fonts are better for titles, or anything that you want to be seen at a distance. So you would probably be using them on your slides. Now, what we want you to know is that fonts have a kind of personality because they convey a certain tone. And looking at serif fonts, Georgia is a good example of a font that is elegant. And everybody knows Times New Roman. And because of that, it conveys a more professional, traditional feel to it. It's a classic. Now, looking at the sans serif fonts, you can use something that is more formal, more neutral, or go for Helvetica, for example, that will give you a simple, pure feeling to your words. Just make sure that you never use Comic Sans. Among designers, it's a complete joke and will give a unprofessional, silly look to your slides or whenever you use it. So just make sure you avoid it, okay? And with that said, your number one priority is to make it legible. Anything that you put in your slides should be very easy to read. And each decision you make about type affects the legibility of your text. So make sure you improve the readability of your text. And that means ditching crazy fonts, always having high contrast, removing an underline, not having your texts in all caps, avoiding italic and bold, unless you want to highlight something. And in this case, you would use one or the other. A simple exercise that you can do is just asking yourself, can you read this? Seriously. Check this out, for example. See how legibility decreases? Avoid anything that you see on the top there. And that's already a huge favor that you do to your audience. Another point I want to make is when you type things at an angle. It might be okay sometimes, and we see it most often in graphs. But when you can avoid it, just avoid it. It is more difficult to your audience, and we don't want them to think at all. Always remember, we want the information to be transmitted smoothly. And that's what you want also when you're in the audience. So make sure you avoid these little mistakes. Now, when we are talking about graphs, you should always have a title. Even better, a title in the form of a conclusion. And the rules for use of text that we talked about just now also apply. So make sure they're very easily readable. At certain times, you shouldn't be using a title. In this case, it's a light bulb, and that's just too obvious. Remember, we are learning small details that when put together make a huge difference. Huge! And with that said, let's jump into a few suggestions in terms of fonts. The ones in the left are serif fonts that I really like. And in terms of sans serif, we'd recommend the ones in the right, being Arial the most common one, and you've probably been using it for a long time, and that's completely fine. However, our favorites are the Google fonts, and being Open Sans, the one that we use the most. In fact, is the one that we use throughout the whole course. So in case you like it, you can just download it. And I'll show you how to download a font right now. It's pretty easy. You just go to fonts.google.com and you arrive to a page like this. And for instance, Roboto is one of the fonts that we like. You can just click there. It will take you to a page like this. Make sure you click Download Family. Once you download it, you double click the file and install it to your computer. It's as simple as that. And make sure you prevent any problems in terms of fonts. And there are two ways to do it. Using the same computer that you created your presentation on, and we talked about that already, or saving your presentation in PDF. And we also talked about that. It's all about preparing for the worst. So if you want to save in PDF, just go File, Export, and create PDF in PowerPoint, and there you have it. And that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this class and apply what we said here in your next presentations. And I'll see you in the next one.